ruthless in protecting the integrity of your idiot club.
I'm just the same as I was.
That's a great haircut, Mercedes. I thought you graduated.
And with that one single promo in 2012, there was a feeling of promise, a feeling of change in the air. At the time of Glee's 4th season, I had begun my first time in college. Much like Glee, it was my first time entering a new chapter of my life. However, while I was trying to change, Glee was struggling to do just that, and instead relied on what's been established. I'm not here to say season 4 was the worst season of the show or anything. No, that award goes to season 5, who we'll get to at a much later date. In actuality, I do like season 4. There's a lot to like about it. Unfortunately, that season is also riddled with issues that made it a rough watch from start to finish. Glee was in a transitional period of its run. Season 3 had some of our favorites graduate and head off to college, which meant the club was in need of new members. And on top of that, they finally won nationals after 3 years of hard work, so they're also coming off a winner's high. How does one continue on from what felt like a conclusion to the overall story? Well, we know one way, and it's through season 4. And it all started with the season's opener, the new Rachel. I have many problems with this season opener. In fact, I don't think it functions well as an opener at all. Let's find out why, shall we? Hi there, I'm Emerald Star, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be discussing the new Rachel, aka Glee's Season 4 opener. For those of you who don't know, Glee is one of my all-time favorite shows, and I'll be talking about it at length here on this channel, alongside other topics that come to mind. If that's your vibe, then stick around. There's a lot to unpack with this show, and I've got nothing but time. Anyway, if you don't know what Glee is, then you're in luck. I'm gonna give y'all a mini breakdown of what the show is, so we're all on the same page. So, Glee is a musical dramedy that aired from 2009 to 2015. It stars a group of misfits who join the not-so-popular Glee club, known as the New Directions, at their school in the hopes of making something of themselves. Throughout the show, the kids learn more about themselves through friendships, romantic relationships, winning and losing various competitions, and their everyday personal lives as time goes by. And it's all accompanied by music, every step of the way. As alluded to in my opening statements, the Glee Club won nationals in Season 3, and some of the members had graduated at the end of said season. This meant that Season 4 was going to have some fresh faces on deck. That first taste of freshness came in the form of the new Rachel, Season 4's first episode. The new Rachel takes place at the start of the new school year. The New Directions are still fresh off their nationals win and are somewhat popular amongst their peers at the moment. Things are off to a great start, until they're presented with a question: who's gonna be the new Rachel? Who will take the place of the club's leading lady? Speaking of that leading lady, the episode also follows Rachel as she begins college in New York and adjusts to the new environment. On the surface, the opener functions perfectly, and does the job of getting us sucked into what's expected for the season going forward. However, when you look a little deeper into the inner workings of the episode, you begin to see that it's simply functioning and nothing more. Allow me to explain why that is, and we'll start with the new kids. Section 1. The new kids aren't alright. At the start of Season 4, we were introduced to 4 new characters, who'd eventually join the Glee Club: Marley Rose, Unique Adams, Jake Puckerman, and Kitty Wilde. No, we won't be discussing Ryder since he doesn't appear until episode 5. He'll have his time in another video, I promise you. Anyway, the 4 new characters were fine on the surface, but then you begin to see what the writers were trying to do, and suddenly, they're not as good as they could have been. All 4 characters were slightly carbon copies of former students. Allow me to demonstrate. Marley is essentially a humbled and equally talented Rachel. Jake is Puck's younger half-brother, who also happens to be a troublemaker. Unique is a mix of Kurt and Mercedes, and Kitty is a combo of Quinn and Santana. Once I realized this, I was kinda disappointed, cause it meant the writers were gonna try to fill the impossible shoes of former club members. But the thing is, those graduates were irreplaceable to begin with, and any attempts to do just that were gonna fall short from the jump. To be clear, I'm not saying these 4 are bad characters. Far from that, actually. They're all lovely in their own ways, but that need to fill in impossible roles sadly loomed over them with every move they made. And in the new Rachel, that couldn't be more apparent. We see Marley have a stellar audition and be compared to Rachel in a shot-by-shot duet with her. Kitty is, well, aside from having some Santana-esque insults, Sue sums her up in a nutshell.
Porcelain is Kitty. Kitty is my new head bitch. She's like a young Quinn Fabray, except she's not pregnant, manic depressive, or in and out of a wheelchair.
Good God, they weren't even trying to hide that one. Credit for being self-aware, I guess? Meanwhile, Jake is shown to be a troublemaker with a bad temper, but has one hell of a talented voice. Oh, and he plays guitar just like his brother. And Unique is immediately welcomed into the club and showcases her confidence and talent, eager to be the lead soloist of the club. It's giving Mercedes and Kurt wanting solos energy, not gonna lie. I wish these four were allowed to do their own thing instead of live up to expectations of what's been established. Glee had a chance to give us a fresh crop of characters, and they just went down this path instead. But I can't entirely fault them for that. They knew what worked and went with it. Doesn't excuse it, but I get it. What I can't excuse, however, is the main focus of the episode, the search for a new Rachel. Let's talk about it. Section 2. There will never be another Rachel. Folks, let's just get something out of the way. Rachel Berry simply can't be replaced. Point blank, period. Whether you love or hate her, she simply can't be replaced in any way whatsoever, and attempting to do just that will lead to failure. The very point of Season 4's opener is searching for someone who can take on Rachel's role as the de facto leader of the club, aka the one who's got the pipes and talent to be a tour de force during competitions. During the in-universe recap in the episode, resident rumor mill and nerdy guy Jacob poses the question of who will replace Rachel, and from that point on, we focus on four main players eager to take her place: Tina, Blaine, Unique, and Brittany. The quartet perform a lovely rendition of Call Me Maybe, and it's up to Artie to make the final call as to who takes the leading role. In the end, however, Blaine wins and becomes the lead soloist in the club. Now, while I don't like this plot whatsoever, let's play devil's advocate for a little bit. If you had to replace Rachel, why the fuck would you choose Blaine of all people? And why on earth would you allow Unique and Brittany to even compete? Blaine, while well-rounded and incredibly talented, only has 1 year of experience with the club. Unique just transferred to McKinley and shouldn't be trying to claim a spot that will put attention on her, knowing that's what stressed her out last season. And Brittany hasn't a single reason to be the next lead soloist and should instead focus on graduating after being held back. Then there's Tina, who paid her dues for 3 years and has been the backbone for many others. If anyone should be replacing Rachel, it would be her. Tina can dance, she has powerful vocals that never get enough credit, and has proven to be her own tour de force when she's not being treated like a tired-ass running gag. Legit, Glee could have easily done some game-changing things in Season 4 had they thought through their choices. Tina could have taken the mantle of lead soloist, still retain her newfound confidence and cockiness, while learning that being in charge isn't all that it's cracked up to be, and ultimately lead her down a path of being a more down-to-earth leader. Not only that, she could have played the role of mentor for Marley. Instead of propping up Marley as the new soloist, Tina could have taken her under their wing and spend all of Season 4 mentoring her. Marley could then eventually grow into that role and become the new lead once Tina graduates. Do you see how I just came up with a perfect scenario that blends the old and new together without sacrificing logic? Again, if we had to replace Rachel, then why not actually put that to the test and ask the questions? Is it worth being the new Rachel? And what does it mean to be the new Rachel? Instead, we got a faulty plot thread that ended up meaning very little, because Blaine won anyway. Blaine was always going to be important, whether the new leader or not, but it sucks that they practically did nothing with him or his position in the spotlight. And that's because Homeboy had no real reason to be the center of attention to begin with. This plot and all of its moving parts are most definitely bad, but they're only half of the problem. The other half of this opener's issues belong to the big apple in the room. Section 3. The New York Split Problem. At the start of Season 4, the folks behind Glee decided it would be a lovely idea to split the show between Lima, Ohio and New York City as a way to keep track of the club and Rachel's time in college. At the time, I loved this idea. It sounds like something fresh and new, especially for Glee. And to the show's credit, I actually like a lot of the New York scenes throughout the season. Some are better than others, but for the most part, I thoroughly enjoyed what we got. Despite that, however, they do feel out of place in my opinion. As good as the plots in New York turned out to be, they simply felt a bit disconnected to what was going on in Lima. Almost every episode of Season 4 tries to tie the Lima and New York plots into whatever the themes are per episode. At first, they do that pretty well, but it quickly falls off over time. Trying to maintain 22 episodes of plot and finding ways to connect everything just ended up showcasing weak spots in the poorly built Lima-New York split. And that goes back to where it all began in the Season 4 opener. We start the season off with Rachel in college, and see things from her perspective 50% of the episode. It starts and ends with her. What goes on in Lima is fine, but doesn't mean much when we're sharing the screen with Rachel's adventures in New York. What the writers have done here is present you with a shiny new toy, while also bunching it together with the toy you already have. While that classic toy is great, you also like what the new toy is giving, and the possibilities that come with it. That's what the New York plots felt like throughout Season 4, but especially in early Season 4. I didn't really care who'd become the new Rachel. I cared about the OG Rachel, I cared about Kurt, and the other alumni as they began their respective journeys post-high school. I too was in college at the time, so I had the pleasure of growing up with the characters and seeing them progress in their lives over time. I viewed Rachel's first days at college as far more interesting compared to whatever the hell the Glee Club were dealing with back at home, and that is the problem. The New York stuff should have been in its own show. I know, it was supposed to be at one point, I know. And then it got scrapped, but I digress. Honestly, I felt as if Glee should have just cut their losses and picked one or the other location to focus on. They tried having their cake and eating it too, but fumbled during the baking process, resulting in a cake that's definitely not giving what you thought. And the worst part is that they continued on with this Lima New York split for a season and a half before finally transitioning to New York full-time in the latter half of Season 5. Surprise, surprise, those New York focused episodes turned out to be decent, but we'll discuss those when we talk about Season 5 down the road. For now though, let's wrap this video up. I think I've said enough about this season opener. I know I ragged on the new Rachel this entire video, but I'm sure you've also noticed those few moments throughout where I spoke about my enjoyment of this episode. And that's cause, despite my grievances, I still enjoy this episode a lot. It's one of the few episodes I still go back to when rewatching the show. That final scene with Rachel and Kurt hugging each other upon reuniting is still one of the best moments in the damn show. That shit never fails in making me an emotional mess. The music in this episode is phenomenal as always. And yeah, despite how much I hate the new Rachel plot thread, it had some very solid funny moments nonetheless. Also, Dean Geyer. That man is fucking gorgeous. Say what you will about his role as Brody, but the man himself was fun to look at. I know what I like. The new Rachel overall isn't the worst opener Glee has had, and does still function pretty well as is. I just think it could have been a lot better. It could have been something greater. That promo clip I shared at the start of the video spoke about a brave new Glee that was on its way with Season 4's premiere. It was certainly brave and new, but I'm not sure if it made much of a difference in the end. Glee tried to change things, but also ended up staying the same in many respects. While that's not necessarily a bad thing, it also means that Glee was afraid to let go. And I'm a bit saddened by that, because Season 4 had a ton of potential. Unfortunately, that potential was mishandled, and it all started when they decided to ask the impossible $1 million question. Who will be the new Rachel? Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Let me know your thoughts on today's discussion in the comments down below. I'd love it if you did. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, peace out. Bye.